Is City Skylines an easy game or a hard game? And this is a question which seems to be so, well, simple at first, but it's something that I started to think about as well, because in the first couple of episodes, I used to say that this was a very easy game and really helped me along the way, but then again, the developers themselves said that it does bring many challenges, and IGN again said that the game was terribly easy, and way too easy for that matter, and it's really hard to decide whether this game is actually too easy or too hard, because it does mean that disaster management that you used to have in SimCity, although I don't really miss that because I was never too glad about my city, which I put so much labor and love into and went to shit because of some stupid Godzilla, but that's completely beside the point. I feel like this game is easy when you first look at it. It really helps you along the easy and, you know, simple things. But as soon as you really want to start building a extremely realistic and well-functioning city, it starts to get harder. So I definitely think that this is an easy game, but you can give yourself a challenge to set certain goals for yourself. Now, one goal that you can set, which is very accomplishing if you actually do stuff with it, is the traffic management, which is something that I am going to do in this episode. And as you can see, I'm removing all of those roads over there, because the issue that I had with my city was, even though I did kind of plan the entire layout in a sense that if it would grow and I would have more traffic, it would still be able to take on all that traffic, but nope, that didn't turn out to be that way. So The Hague, which is that little neighborhood over there, which still bears the name but does not even exist anymore, is now completely flattened by that enormous highway that I'm going to construct right now, going into the middle of my city. So I have a highway connection leading right to the downtown area, which does involve some major changing of the city layout, but I think I'm pretty glad with it so far, though it is pretty hard to actually get all of those ramps and stuff like that to actually work well and look good and not make the area too not so great. And as you can see, the land value around this area is dropping right now, so that is a shame, of course, but you know, sometimes you just have to sacrifice certain things above certain other things, and I definitely think that traffic flow is much more important than land value. Obviously, this is just one stupid neighborhood next to the downtown. Don't really care about that too much. Now, one thing that I do care about is this industrial area, and oh my, when traffic problems arise in this game, they are usually among the industrial areas, and you know, you've got all of these trucks going in and out of the area, and they need to load, and the animations are quite stupid because they tend to disappear inside buildings, not to mention the floating people and stuff like that, but I might showcase that later on. But yeah, industrial areas are very crowded with trucks, and it's kind of hard actually. It's very much a challenge to actually get these things to work well without congestion, so I'm going to actually pay some attention to how I'm going to manage that. And at this point, because I'm actually commentating this many episodes after this is actually recorded, because if you know me, I open up my game and I play for 8 hours, and then I have to convince myself to actually start rendering and making those videos, though not necessarily in that order, of course. And that means that this video is released, well, probably a couple of days after I recorded it, actually. So yeah, but I decided to just mess around with those industrial areas to see what I could do, and I came up with this idea that I would have highways leading into it. And as you can see, this is just a small industrial area, and I decided to build a roundabout over here and then have all these one-way lanes around it, which actually, essentially, the entire industrial area turns into one big roundabout where all the trucks have to go around their business, literally speaking, I'm sorry. And that's just the idea that I had for that. Not really sure if it's working too great, but so far I haven't had too many problems with that. So at this point, most of the problems with traffic are somewhat solved. But as you could see, when I was checking the traffic thingy, there are still quite some problems with that. And I think the issue is, though, and I'm not sure about this, but I feel like whether an area is red or green, it is all based on how many cars it has per space. And I'm pretty sure about this. It might also, but I feel like it might also be that it's red depending on how fast the cars are driving, but I don't think this is the case, and I would almost kind of wish that this was the case, but because sometimes you have these areas where there are many cars driving, especially on the highways, but they're not really stopping anywhere, there's no traffic jam, it's just kind of crowded. It still shows as red on the map, and that is still kind of annoying. Like, nothing is actually wrong with those things, it's just something in my brain saying, hey, that's red, you need to fix that, you cannot have that. And that road, by the way, I have no idea what I was exactly planning with that. I was just like, hey, I can build some forest industry, let's try that. So I tried that, hooked it up on the electricity and the water system, and then decided to do nothing with that because, no, wait, that was actually farmland. And at that point I decided, you know what, I'm going to turn this industry into farm industry, because for some reason the farm industry doesn't pollute or anything like that, so I didn't want all that weird purple gooey stuff on the ground, so I just decided to replace all that with farmland industry, if that is really a thing. That is one thing that I do notice about this game though, the industry is kind of not so realistic, especially when you compare it to the realism of the rest of the city, because I don't think that the ground actually turns purple next to an industrial area. Now, of course, we're all just waiting for mods to fix that at this point, and there will probably be some mods that fix that. But it's not just that about it, it's also the fact that when you place forest industry stuff, you actually get a couple of trees and many big buildings, and I don't know exactly what they're doing and where they're getting their wood, but for some reason they have like a couple of trees next to them, and somehow they just produce tons of wood each year, and that just doesn't seem like an entirely realistic thing. And I don't even know what these farm industries are supposed to be, but oh well, they work pretty well, and they don't pollute or anything, so I just decided to do some stuff with that. But I might actually make a tutorial on how to build these industrial complexes, because it is definitely a very complex thing to build. Oh, I need to stop doing that, I'm very sorry. But yeah, I'm not entirely happy about the way that the industry works in this game. Of course, it's still really great, and I just love this game, and I've been playing it to death right now. But, you know, there are just certain things which you'll always be able to criticize, I suppose. And one thing that I would actually like to see, but if this already exists in the game, then I'm really happy about that. And I didn't say anything about this, but so far I haven't actually been able to get it, even though I do have the university and stuff like that, and it does seem like the education levels in my city are pretty high. One thing that I always loved about SimCity is the fact that you can get high-tech industry, and so far I haven't really seen it, or my industry is actually high-tech, but it still looks like shitty industry. And, you know, I would love to have that. I would love to have all these software companies in my industrial areas, and of course no pollution, and actually buildings that look pretty cool and less cartoony in that sense. It would just be a much more practical and aesthetic kind of thing in my city, and definitely something that I would like to have. But then again, this game is completely moddable, so it might always come. I've heard that there might actually be updates to this, and it's already awesome as is, so I'm not going to complain about that too much. It's just something that I did notice. And speaking of noticing, I also noticed that this area is still red, even though I did redo it, so that's gonna actually need some more work in the future. But at this point I was like no, I just spent like 2 hours trying to get that area to not fuck up, and I still fucked up. I'm just going to completely ignore that and going to have all the trucks sit in their traffic jams, because you know, they are causing the traffic jams, whatever, they can be stuck in it. I was kind of pissed off at all these people trying to make this congestion happening over there, but don't worry, eventually I did finish the area, I did redo it one more time, and right now it's actually not doing that bad. It's still got a bit of too much traffic flow to be good, but it's not really causing any problems anymore, so that's pretty cool. And as you can see, my highway is getting increasingly complicated, because with every little thing that I add to it, I just want to have all these on-ramps and stuff like that. And, well, they're practical for one, but I also just kind of like the look of them. So I just decided to overcomplicate all of my, well, interchanges, and then it turns into this. But at this point I was like, okay, I need bigger population, because as you can see, there is quite a bit of demand for residential. Well, not quite a bit, but it's where you compare it to industrial and commercial there is. And I was like, yeah, we might as well build a suburb of a suburb, because You know, at this point, the city doesn't really look like a suburb anymore. We've got a downtown anyway, and stuff like that. So I wanted to expand beyond the highways that I had right now, and I decided that this little neighborhood was going to be the place, and it's called Houston for no other reason than that it's called Houston, because I actually do name my neighborhoods after completely random cities around the world. I actually did not name one of my neighborhoods Osaka because of weeaboo reasons. That actually kind of didn't happen. There is Tallinn though, which is amazing because it's an amazing city and stuff like that. So and I might actually put some Dutch pride in it too. I'll have like a couple, like 10 Dutch cities at the end. But yeah, my neighborhood are just random cities because I didn't want to spend too much time coming up with new names, but I also didn't want to have those stupid names that the game comes with, because oh my, they are terrible. Seriously, they're the most cookie cutter names I have ever seen, and that's not a problem at all, but it's just something that I don't want to have in my city. My city has to have good names. Otherwise, you know, I wouldn't even want to live in a neighborhood with a terrible name, no matter how good the neighborhood may be. And the traffic jams just seem to get increasingly terrible at this place. And I was kind of lost with this industrial area. And now you might want to say, well, you should place more 4-lane and 6-lane roads, and that's something that I do want to avoid actually, and I'm going to talk about that in a bit, just a tiny little bit right now, but I actually might cover it in a tutorial too, and it's kind of a well-known thing right now. But 4-lane roads and 6-lane roads come with traffic lights, and if there's anything you'd want to avoid, it's traffic lights, because even though they are good at regulating the traffic, they are also very good at making the traffic very congested, and traffic lights are just kind of annoying in general, and if you can avoid them, avoid them. And things to note about this is that 2-lane roads don't come with traffic lights. 2-lane roads that connect to 4-lane or 6-lane roads that are one-sided, as in the 2-lane roads are a one-way road, then they won't get traffic lights either. And of course, highways and on-ramps and stuff like that won't get traffic. No, wait. Highways that connect to normal roads will get traffic lights, but on-ramps and stuff like that won't get traffic lights either. So those are all things that you can use to prevent traffic lights from happening. Not a big roundabout, because big roundabouts with 4 or 6-lane roads still have traffic lights, so I don't think that is really going to get you anywhere. Now, of course, roundabouts are pretty sexy though, but yeah. So is this Houston area. Damn, I do kind of like this area. But yeah, that's it for this episode. So thank you for watching, and in the next episode I'm going to do something, and I have no idea what I'm going to do because I can't be bothered to look that up. But you'll see that soon.